Ah, shoot. Me? Make mistakes? Always. I make mistakes every time I paint a miniature. But the secret is I don't always tell you that I make mistakes. But it's inevitable. It's part of the process in painting. But there are some ways to help prevent that, as well as ways to fix those mistakes. And since it's part of the process, it's good to learn how to fix those mistakes. And I'm going to show you a few ways that I fix some of my mistakes while we paint up Kilkorax, the Kyrie Warrior from HeroScape. HeroScape is a fantastic game, awesome miniatures, and they've been coming out with new stuff every few months. I do have an affiliate link down the bottom, and let's jump into this paint video. All right, well, I'm getting this primed up. The number one thing I think you have to have when it comes to just about anything in life, but in this specific case, painting and mistakes, is your mindset. You really need to be thinking about as mistakes as an opportunity to learn and to grow. That's usually when I get better, is when I've made some kind of mistakes. I have to either fix it or figure out how to not do it again. So that's my first tip, is your mindset. My next tip is to practice any new technique, generally on a figure you're not too concerned about making it look really nice. For example, with Kilkorax here and doing her wings, this is a new technique I hadn't really done a lot of, where I layer up the wings, just a style for this, which I've done some layering here and there, but not a ton, honestly. So I practiced this on another figure with wings for hours until I kind of liked the results. Then I started it on her, which the idea here is just taking, a darker, skinish color, which I just use that fur brown, and slowly layered it all the way through the whole thing with just little stripes, lines, stenciling. And then you go to the next color, tanned flesh, and slowly work that up. And then you do that on its own and it gets even brighter. And then I mix it with some barbarian flesh, and then that gives me a new color to layer up slowly. And then eventually, after you've just worked your way up until you run into white, basically with some matte white I mix in here in a second, and that just gives you this layering sequence that turns out really nicely. So that's the tip, is really just those new techniques you're learning, try them on another miniature, then you'll prevent making mistakes on your main miniature that you really want to do a good job on. Yeah, here I'm just stenciling in, really just trying to get that look. So it looks pretty great. I like the way it turned out. Obviously, it could always be better, and next time it will be, but that's how you get better. You just keep trying. So here I take a purple wash and put the wash all over the wings. And one thing I'd note right here, watching me do this again, is that I let it pool a little more than I should have in the middle of the wings. So, because it took away a little too much of my detail I liked. And then here I'm putting on some bony matter on those ends, but actually later that wasn't the way I liked it, so I went and corrected it. Now I'm painting up the skin. Yes, the wings are not painted anymore because I did this kind of in a different order, so don't get too confused about the order. It all comes together in the end. But one thing I'd note on skin, if you're going for a brighter skin, you definitely would want to dry brush that a lot more with the white so that it stands out a lot more. And with her hair, I use the Goddess Glow. I really like the way the hair turned out. It looks really good. Do have to be real careful because there's little bits of bone in her hairdress. So make sure you don't miss those. And then right here, I do like mixing the speed paint medium. That does help out quite a bit. But again, this was me going through and I'm painting some things and then realized later that there was a mistake to paint this first. And that's another point here for avoiding some mistakes, is her dress there it's the majority of things, and those little dagger things are small details. And so I ended up having to go back and fix those. And these skulls, it's a skull, you know, those are supposed to be pretty bright, which I didn't get enough white on there when I dry brushed it. So that ends up being another point that I come back. So first we're gonna go through all the things that I didn't like, and we'll come back and fix those mistakes. But you don't really see them till after you've kind of gone through the painting sometimes, and you're like, yeah, I need to go back and fix this. So here is where I covered pretty much everything in the grim black for her dress, which at some point I looked at it and was like, I'm just gonna paint over all of this, because trying to go around each and every one of those little hanging silver knife bits in her dress was going to be too hard. And here I come back with a skeleton bone, because I could see that like these skeleton details, because they were too dark, the bony matter with the speed paint didn't pop enough. So I decided to go and hit everything with the bony matter. And then here I'm actually doing the metal things again, because I covered it with the grim black. But I wouldn't be going back and forth if I had thought about that first. But as you can see, you can always go back and repaint things. I just covered it all in the grim black, and I came back and hit with the silver. And that's what I'm doing here. I had put bony matter on this with the speed paint, but it was just too dark. So I took the skeleton bone, lightened it all up so it looks just a lot brighter. A couple highlights here and there are not bad to do too. It really makes things pop a lot more. Just highlighting some of those spots that I did the bony matter with, and that way it looks more finished, it looks more crisp, and things stand out a lot more. And so now I'm gonna go back with that speed paint, hit it over the skeleton bone that I put on there, and it looks so much better. Same thing on her staff. It was, again, too dark. So these are just like little mistakes you could see as you work through the mini, and then you go back and just readjust it. It takes a little time, but it ends up being well worth fixing your mistakes. And then I thought it'd be great to give her a little pouch there. It looks like a pouch, so I made it a pouch, put a little silver dot for a little button or something, and then turns out pretty good. And then grabbing the speed paint actually and just using it almost like a wash. Now for eyes, my tip is to do it upside down. I don't know what it is, but when you hold the miniature upside down, it is so much easier, or sideways, just like straight up, it just seems like it never works. So get those eyes looking great. And if you ever mess up with your eyes, you can just go back, hit them black, and then do white again. Here we just get small little dots, just the smallest little dot, and yep, you can see your eyes. And you usually don't want to hit the center, you want to hit kind of inner. So if you go too much, it's cross-eyed. If you go too far out, they look really goofy. So hey, you just got to figure it out. And now here I'm going back with some gray and just highlighting her dress in some of the spots, because that makes it just pop out a lot more. And now fixing the skulls, because I felt like they were way too drab. So I just took some of the skeleton bone and dry brushed over it to make them a lot brighter again. So it's a good way to go. And then the soft tone, I took some of that to do her eyes, just to make it look a little less piercing white. And now we paint up the base, makes it look real good. And then just a little highlighting with this plate metal on her weapon. Makes it look nice. And then I always like to cover them in some kind of varnish. You know, you can go with matte or gloss, but I'm just kind of doing in the middle, satin. And there she is, all finished up. I do like the way she turned out. It was a great experience for me, trying new techniques, learning, making mistakes, and fixing them up, which it's a normal process. That's just part of painting. And the sooner you get used to making mistakes and getting better at fixing them, your skills get better as well. And it's a good experience overall. That's part of the painting process. If you really enjoyed this video, check out this video over here.